This podcast is sponsored by Tusk, an open source non-ICO crypto project powered by community. Check them out on the web at tusk.network. That's TUSC.network. The Rob McNealy program is the nexus of cryptocurrency, blockchain technology, and entrepreneurship. Now, welcome to the program. Hey folks, Rob McNealy here, and I'm excited to be talking to Dalton Skach of Goldgate. He is kind of an all-around really interesting guy as far as being involved in commercial real estate and financial markets and entrepreneurship, and the kind of guy I like to talk to because he reminds me a lot of me. So welcome to the show, Dalton. How are you today?
I'm doing well, Rob. Thanks for having me. Thanks for that nice compliment that you think I make you think of me or of yourself.
Well, it's all well deserved, man. I talk to a lot of really interesting engineers on here, but my heart's with entrepreneurs. I can relate to entrepreneurs and investors a lot more than I can engineers sometimes, and I think we as entrepreneurs look at the world a little differently than a lot of people do. So it's always good to kind of talk to like minds, so to speak. So I guess before we jump into what you're working on, can you give my audience a little bit about you? What's your background?
Totally, yeah. So Dalton Skach is a entrepreneur. This is my second business, Goldgate. I'm also a world traveler. I've been spending the past 2 years traveling around the world. And a little bit of background about kind of where I came from is I grew up over in Reno, Nevada, and I went to school in Boulder, Colorado. And then after I graduated, I started my first company 6 months afterwards. My company ended up being successful, so I went out and I traveled the world while I was working. And then I spent some time this year in Latin America, and then coronavirus happened, and then I started this new business. So that's kind of the short story.
Very cool. Yeah, I was in Colorado a long time. My wife went to University of Colorado for med school, and I went to Colorado State for my MBA. So I'm
Wow, small world.
It very much is. And I was just in Reno, actually, just a few weeks ago. So get around a little bit myself. So what was your first business?
So my first business, also called Goldgate, what I was doing is I was doing commercial real estate investment consulting. So I was working with private equity groups and REITs and institutional groups around the country in sourcing off-market industrial and multifamily deals that were $10 million and over. And it was quite the niche, but it was very, very high in demand. I got to know a lot of the biggest players in the game in the country due to it, because these funds and these equity groups, they always need more deals because that's how they make their money. So I was doing that.
So you're a pretty young guy. How did you make all those contacts so shortly after college?
Yeah, so when I was actually in college, the University of Colorado's got an incredible real estate program where they have these case competitions and they build a team and they go all over the country competing with teams in schools, universities from all over the world in these competitions. And so I was able to build a pretty great network through that. For instance, when we would go down to USC to compete, we would meet private equity guys and real estate guys there. But basically 6 months after college, I said, hey, I'm going to, what I did in college, which was the cake competitions, I'm going to do this in real life. And so I went out and started doing that. I started reaching out to all these people. Actually, my first deal that I ever did is I wrote a handwritten letter. I wrote a handwritten letter to the largest industrial REIT in the entire world. I wrote it to their CFO. And a week went by. I remember sitting in my car and getting the phone call from San Francisco. And that was actually my first deal. That deal ended up being over $10 million. And that was a great six-figure reward.
So I think you hit the nail on the head right there with a little secret. So what prompted you to write a cold call letter via hand?
I think it's all about being an entrepreneur and trying to get that person's attention. So what I did is I was able to get all the stationery that was branded towards Goldgate. I wrote out the letter a few times, on my Word document, and then kind of prepared it with a sticker and all that stuff. And pretty much what in my head is I said, yeah, it's going to take a little bit more work, but one of these cards really could turn into a very large payday. And it's pretty incredible because without writing that one card, I would not be where I am today. So pretty amazing.
So with the initial version of Goldgate, how did you exit that?
So at the end of last year, so in 2017 and 2018, those were my best years for Goldgate in terms of closings. And because people were at least wanting or entertaining off market offers. And what was going on in 2019, however, is that the economy was so great, it was so amazing that none of the property owners, they didn't want to sell off market because they were able to put the property on the market with a broker and get a number that they couldn't even figure out in their own Excel spreadsheet. They were just getting numbers that were just so large that they would never have even imagined. So 2019, we put in a lot of offers. It was actually the best year in terms of putting in offers, but there wasn't a lot of closings. And towards the end of the year, as probably a lot of brokers might feel after a few years of doing this, is that I kind of just felt a little bit underappreciated, and I felt like I was ready to go do that next step. And I'd already been traveling for 2 years, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna go spend some more time and kind of just go work on myself. And so I ended the brokerage, ended the consulting firm at the end of last year, spent the first 2 months of this year in Nicaragua, then the next 2 months in Brazil. And then coronavirus happened and I saw an opportunity, and now I'm here.
So what is the latest incarnation of Goldgate? What are you working on now?
So the latest incarnation of Goldgate, and I know that a lot of entrepreneurs do this as well, as they start off with one idea and they pivot and they pivot and they refine their business plan and their model. But what we've gotten to, which I think is pretty special, is what we're doing, what we're focusing on right now at this point in time, is that with the platform that I've created and the technology that we're using, what I'm going to do is go out and acquire ultra luxury residential real estate throughout the entire United States and the world, and then convert it into a digital asset and allow investors from all over the world to acquire fractional ownership in these assets for not only tax benefits and property appreciation, but also personal use.
So that sounds a little bit like a security token offering.
Yes, it's going to be a security token offering, and it's not only a security token, it's also kind of a utility token in a way, because you have that personal use, and so it'll be more of like a hybrid, but that is how we are setting it up. And what we're doing is nothing new, right? In terms of people buying fractional ownerships in real estate, that's always happened. In terms of concierge services and property management, that's always happened. In terms of even right now with the security token offerings, being able to trade shares in commercial real estate, that's already been happening as well. But all we're doing is taking everything and put it together. And there's no one else in this market that is doing this.
It's kind of funny because I've been looking about doing that myself. So curious here, what platform are you building on, or are you building your own platform?
Building my own platform. So it's going to be, as of right now, the minimum viable product. We were using a few different third-party providers in terms of the investor management, the KYC, AML process, and all of that stuff. So I used a few different parties for that minimum viable product to go out and raise money. We're almost finished with our seed round right now. That should be done over the next 2 weeks. Already have the team in place. All we need is the money to go out and execute and get our first deal done. And but yeah, overall, over the next 2 months, as we're building out the new Goldgate platform, using different APIs and building our own UI UX interface.
But are you building your own blockchain for this?
Yes, we'll be using that's also one of the things that we'll be choosing, whether we're using an ERC20 token or if we're using an IBM Hyperledger. Well, there's a few different kind of blockchains that we are exploring right now. And over time, that will continuously improve and be updated, similar to an Apple iPhone update, probably every 4 to 6 months, or maybe even once a year. We just have one of those blockchain updates.
Have you looked at Ravencoin?
I have not looked at Ravencoin.
Do you know that they have all the ledgers and stuff available to make it so you can't move the tokens to be well, you might want to look at Ravencoin. They got a lot of features because they were built specifically for security tokens, and they even have the ability to do the holdback period and everything else on those. So built into the protocol.
Wow, yeah,
So
I'll check that out. I've heard of Ravencoin. I've definitely seen it in the news. I just haven't looked into it as a blockchain option. As you know, the ERC20 is kind of the market maker right now.
yeah, but there's a lot, ERC20s don't have the same functionality and as far as to be compliant with securities.
Uh-huh.
Because once you have if you give out an ERC20 token to somebody, they can just move it and put it on an exchange somewhere. And the problem with that is that's not compliant with federal law.
I'm not sure that you could take I'm not sure that one of our investors could take their ERC20 token and put it up for exchange on a Coinbase account.
No, but you could do it on a DEX where all you need is the contract ID,
Mm-hmm.
like either Delta or Fork Delta, something like that. You absolutely could. And so you got to be careful about that. That's why I would look at something like Ravencoin that actually is lockable. That I could put you in contact with the lead developer. He's a personal friend of mine. And I don't have any dog in that fight, but I think Ravencoin would be a much better option for that. So you could be compliant with securities laws.
We're definitely going to be compliant with securities laws in any sense, but yeah, I would love to have that introduction.
Absolutely. So are you going to be selling these on a market like T0, or how do you plan on?
It will be an exclusive secondary marketplace. So if you want to invest in these properties, and we'll also be bringing other real assets onto the platform in the future as well, like commercial real estate, art, cars, stuff like that. So if you really want to invest in these assets and in case of residential real estate, be able to use them, then you're going to need to be on the Goldgate platform.
And how are you handling the legal piece of that as far as SEC? I know you said you're going to be you have to do AML KYC for accredited investors. I'm assuming this is for accredited investors then only.
Absolutely, yes. Yes, for accredited investors, we're doing this a Reg D 506C exemption in terms of how we're doing the offering. And then in terms of the back end, in terms of the trading, that's being managed by a SEC registered broker dealer.
So, so on the assets themselves, so it sounds like you're raising money then to build this essentially a fund, and then you're going to be selling off securities from that fund to accredited investors. Is that correct?
No, there's not a fund going on with this at all. Each real asset has its own entity. So there's not a fund going on.
Very cool. And what would you say you're doing that's super, super unique compared to like other normal REITs?
Yes, well, what's different about this in terms of normal REITs, and I guess that's for the commercial real estate aspect for it too, but for instance, if you drive by, let's just say Prologis, if you drive by one of their industrial warehouses and you own $1,000 worth of Prologis share, you don't drive by that and go, oh, I love that. That's my property. No, absolutely not, because you don't have any pride of ownership in it. There's also different tax benefits when you own the properties by themselves in terms of depreciation and how that's also all handled. But what you're able to do on this platform is you're in essence able to create your own REIT, right? If you say, hey, I want to have 50,000 shares of this multifamily property in Austin. I want to have 100,000 shares of this Amazon distribution center in Phoenix. I want to have 200,000 shares of this Chick-fil-A in Denver, Colorado. And I want the ability to sell them whenever I want. That's what we'll be offering. So you'll be able to, in essence, create your own REIT. But your own, I guess, life on this platform. You'll be able to say, here's the homes that I own, here's the commercial real estate that I own, here's the art, here's the cars, here's my stocks, here's my bonds, here's my crypto. And if at any point in time you want to liquidate everything and put it into a new business or move to Mexico, you have the ability to do so. This is perfect for family offices. I mean, imagine if you were to go into your family office and tell them to liquidate everything. That would be a pretty weird morning.
Exactly. Well, I always like to ask this about projects. What do you think the blockchain and cryptocurrency bring to your project that you couldn't just do this with a database and like normal shares?
Yeah, we'll bring what I also market it as is like a digital security offering. All we're doing is turning it into like a digital asset and creating that marketplace that is where people can trade. So I guess creating that liquidity and that trading, which you're not able to do. For instance, if you buy maybe your shares on CrowdStreet or Fundrise, um, I'm pretty familiar with both those companies, but from what I understand, you can't, you get paper shares, right? You can't just go out and there's not a marketplace where you can go sell those. But then also be able to have that accountability and transparency piece, and also have that confidentiality piece too. And then to also bypass all of that legal piece, right? Like for instance, if you own shares in a commercial real estate property and it's March 2020 and you want to sell your shares in that retail center, well, you're pretty much SOL, right? You're pretty much screwed. You can't go out and sell these. And if you're going to do it, it's going to be a huge loss to your principal. It's going to be a lot of legal costs. It's going to take a long time to find somebody. But with this, you're able to reach people from accredited investors from all around the world with a click of a button.
Did I lose you?
Can you hear me?
No, I can. You kind of popped out there for a second.
Oh, weird. But I think I was just saying that rather than the traditional way of buying and selling, I guess, shares in residential or commercial real estate, where it's very hard to do so, now you have the ability to reach a marketplace that includes thousands of accredited investors all around the world. And you're able to reach them with a click of a button.
So that's interesting. So how are you guys able to do the AML KYC on the international investors?
Yeah, so we'll be working with a KYC AML company like Verify Invest, or some of those other companies that manage the entire KYC AML process for all of our international investors. And again, in order to go onto the Goldgate platform and create an account and everything, I mean, these people are investing millions of dollars into homes and commercial real estate and whatever it might be. So they're going to go through a pretty thorough KYC AML process, not like one that you would do on a T0 or a Coinbase.
So when do you think you guys are going to be like open to the public? When are you guys going to be live with this?
So the website's already ready, and I just have it private right now, and so that will be going live over the next 2 or 3 weeks. And we're going to start introducing educational material and all that stuff. And then the new platform will be ready in December of this year. And between October and December, we'll be meeting with lots of brokers throughout Southern California, but also the United States, trying to get as many properties as we can on this platform. As you can imagine, this kind of fractional interest and the trading and all that stuff for residential real estate is very attractive for family offices or athletes or CEOs or celebrities or musicians. So we hope to have our full closing in January of 2021.
Very cool. So Dalton, where can people find out more about Goldgate?
People can go to www.goldgate.co, not .com. And you can also go on our LinkedIn page, just Goldgate, not Golden Gate, just Goldgate. And also feel free to email me at dalton@goldgate.co. Those are all ways that you can reach me.
Well, Dalton, I do appreciate your time today, and I look forward to seeing when you go live.
Appreciate it, Rob. It's been a great time talking with you. I look forward to that introduction to Ravencoin, and I look forward to our next conversation in general.
Very good. Hey, Rob McNealy here, and make sure you check us out on the web. I will have all of Dalton's information posted at robmcnealy.com, and this is going to be a good time. I think it's really interesting what he's doing here with blockchain, so make sure you check it out, folks, and hit that subscribe button. Thank you for listening to the Rob McNealy program. Make sure you check us out on the web at robmcnealy.com and subscribe to our podcast at YouTube, iTunes, and on the Google Play Store.